So welcome back to another episode. And I gotta tell you, I've been doing the show for a long time now, and I get asked this question so often, and I can't believe I've left it for so long. Everybody always asks me, what is this keyboard controller that's sitting here on the shelf? I must get a couple of messages a week. Compound that by years, it's been quite a few messages. I feel terrible. I've never had a chance to talk about it, but today I'm going to talk about the ascii keyboard controller for the GameCube. So I got to take all this down here. Oh, I'll have to get rid of some of the dust as well. So here it is, the ascii keyboard controller for the GameCube. And this was Japan only when I got it, and this came out in 2002. I bought it the day it came out, and it had a price tag back then of about $90, and that was Canadian at the time, so very expensive controller. Now, what is this controller all about? Well, there's a little game that was coming out called Phantasy Star Online Episodes 1 and 2. Now, this is the Japanese copy, obviously, and I had an American GameCube. I loved it. I thought it was great, but the game was coming out a little bit later in North America. I didn't want to wait that long, so I had my GameCube modded so I could play Japanese games on there. There was a little switch on there that they created for me. So I imported Episodes 1 and 2, and then I was like, okay, well, cool, I can hook a keyboard. No, I can't hook a keyboard up to it. I'm like, what am I gonna do? Like, how am I gonna type? Because I'm coming off the Dreamcast, and the Dreamcast had a keyboard, a perfectly good keyboard. I did some research into it, and this was the only thing available, this really unusual, strange keyboard controller hybrid. And I was like, what the hell is this thing? So I spent a little bit of money importing all of this stuff. It finally showed up, I think about 2 days after it was released in Japan. So let's take a look. Wow, I haven't opened this up in years. Here we go. Here is the controller. And that's about it. So let's open this thing up. Oh my god, of course I'm fucking nostalgic about it. Look at this. Isn't that something else? This is it. This is the GameCube controller. When I got this, I'm like, I'll be honest with you, and I'm being dead honest, I thought it was so cool. I thought it was so futuristic looking. But at the same time, I'm like, okay, well, here's the keyboard, but am I going to be playing the game and then stopping and typing? You can use it that way. It comes with 2 controller ports that you can plug in, or you can just plug in 1 controller port to use the keyboard, and you can plug in a standard Wavebird, which I did, a wireless controller to play the game, and then if you felt like typing, you could. But this was it felt pretty good. It's kind of if they grabbed a GameCube controller, split it in half, and just threw a keyboard in the middle. That's exactly what this is. On the back, really nice purple finish. On the front, you got the D-pad, analog, you got your buttons over here. And look at it. The only thing that's kind of unusual, this is true too, the keyboard itself, the buttons are very, very small. So when I'd be typing, I'd really have to be like, give me my old man glasses. And I'd be like trying to type on this thing. It was very, very small in that regard. But now that's pretty much the keyboard. It really is. This is all there really is to it. Now, was there any other compatible games with it? Fuck no. One of those goddamn controllers that comes out that only, is used by one game, and that was Phantasy Star Online. I always hoped that Animal Crossing would get it, because I got Animal Crossing the same day, the American version. And I was like, oh cool, maybe I can, no you can't. You can't type on it. So this is being used for one game. Just like the broadband adapter for the GameCube, only compatible for Phantasy Star Online. Phantasy Star Online was a big game at the time. And Nintendo was like, yeah, we'll put a broadband adapter out just for that game. And then the ascii was like, yeah, we'll create a controller just for that game. It was kind of wasted potential on this controller. I wish it was used for more games. And Sammy came out with a controller a little bit later on for episode 3 for Phantasy Star. So, yeah, okay. Why is the other point about this that I really wanted to bring up is that, so there I am, modded. I got a hunter's license for Japan to play Phantasy Star Online, and I get online. I don't know how I did it, but I did. I got online, and There's only me and a few other Americans and English-speaking people from around the world. That was really it. And anybody who had a keyboard is like, oh, you have a keyboard. You're like a part of a secret club. It's like, oh yeah, you have the keyboard, yeah. And here's the stupidest shit ever. When the game got released in North America, oh, was this released for it? Fuck no, it wasn't. There was no controller. It was like, people had to buy like adapters, and it got really expensive online, but this was pretty much a Japan-only keyboard to begin with, so you couldn't, there was nothing you could do if the American version came out. It sucks because I got the American version and I could plug this into it no problem and type in English no problem. So people were so pissed off with me. So, you know, most people didn't have the controls. So I'm like, hey, screw you, you pieces of shit, blah, blah, blah. And then they're like trying to do it all by hand, picking the letters. And it's like, by the time they responded, I'd already totally toasted them, you know, in insults or what have you. It was all in fun back then. So, but yeah, this was the keyboard controller. It was unusual. It was weird. It is one of the weirdest controllers that I, to this day, still have. This is so weird. Like, look at this thing. Look at this. Did a lot of people play with a controller and then type in the middle? Sure, you can do that too. But it feels good. It's very, very light. It's nothing, you know, it's not a heavy controller. It's not, as I say, a big controller. But it was an unusual one for sure. So, guys, I finally got to the ascii GameCube controller keyboard for the GameCube. I finally got to it after all these years. So, anyways, guys, until next time.